I love the beginning of the year. All of the possibilities that could happen, all of the dreaming and goal setting and planning, it just lights me up and I absolutely love it. But if I'm not careful, I can go overboard and it can easily turn into overwhelm. That is why today I want to walk you through 6 steps to help you with your yearly budget planning session and to make sure that you're doing it with and for God instead of leaning into your own strength, because when you do these things alone, it is so much harder. So go get your drink, open your heart to God, and let's dive in. If you're ready to build wealth, ensure financial security, stop overspending, and finally create a budget you can stick to, you mama are in the right place. Hi, I'm Molly, a budget coach and financial strategist who went from living paycheck to paycheck to paying off debt, saving money, and going on vacation, all by budgeting. And I help mamas just like you budget and create God-centered systems and routines so that you too can have financial freedom. Now stop pinching those pennies and let's dive in. Hey friend, thank you so much for tuning in with me each and every week. It lights me up to know that you're enjoying the show. But before we jump into today's episode, I just want to reach out and ask you if you could leave a quick written review for the podcast. Share with me how the podcast is impacting you in your life and what you're enjoying about it. It keeps me excited knowing that you're enjoying the show, which is what helps me to bring you new and fresh content each and every week. And I love knowing that I'm helping you master your finances for a better life and a joyful family. To leave a review, all you have to do is scroll to the bottom of the show and click Write a Review. It's in purple, you can't miss it. Rate it and write your review. So hit pause and take 30 seconds to leave that wonderful review that not only lifts me up, but also helps get the podcast out to other mamas who are struggling with the same thing. I look forward to reading your review, and you never know, I might just end up reading it on the show. Alrighty, so why do I suggest doing a yearly reset with your budget? And my answer to that is because more than likely, myself included, your budget has gotten a little sloppy. Life has changed, priorities may have shifted, and so it's time to reset your budget so that you can go into the new year aligned with God and with less hiccups than you currently have, right? Because you've learned, you've grown, you've changed, and so it's time to take that stuff and put it into your budget as well, right? So as I'm recording this, I have yet to walk through this process myself since I am recording these in advance so that I can have them ready for you when the baby comes and I'm taking some time off, right? However, I am going to walk through my own budget with you so that you can see my thought process and the things that I would do as I rework the family budget, right? So doing my best to stay aligned with God and His will for our family and like shifting things and growing things and just all that kind of stuff, right? So I have 6 steps for you to follow as you sit down and plan out your budget for next year. So step number 1, which I'm sure you probably already have guessed, is to pray. To pray and connect with God, giving Him and inviting Him into your decision making, leading and directing your heart towards what He desires for you and your year and your family so that you can set goals that align with God's plan for your life and your family. Also, ask God for direction as you reflect on the year so that your eyes are open to the things that need to change. Now, I always suggest, starting anything off with a prayer because that's how you're able to prepare your heart to even hear from God. And it allows Him the opportunity to come in and it allows you to be thinking about what God might want for your life as well, instead of you just sitting there going, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? Because when we create a plan based off of what we desire versus what God really wants for our lives, it doesn't come true. It's harder to do. It's harder to implement. It's harder to come up with a plan. But when you have God by your side, guiding you through the entire process, things just go so much smoother. Like, it's amazing how easy something can become when you're not trying to do it in your own strength. So that's why I always suggest to pray first. Pray, connect, and invite Him in so that you are ready and prepared to hear His voice while you are in the thick of it. Step number 2 then is to reflect and review on the past year. So what did you do? What didn't you do? What worked? What didn't work? How did life change? Because, life is constantly ebbing and flowing and growing and changing, and you're growing and changing. Did your goals change? Because I'm sure a lot of them did. Maybe not your financial goals, but the goals and priorities of your life have shifted and changed, which means that your budget needs to reflect that stuff, right? So what needs to be changed for this year? So if I were to review my budget with you, this is what it would look like. Our income hasn't changed because we have stayed at this job for at least this year, right? But when I look at everything else, because I do have 2 different base budgets that I've been working off of, the things that were in my budget, I have removed, right? And I've talked about this on previous episodes. We decided to stop putting stuff like money, not stuff. We decided to stop putting money away for savings because we had a really big project that needed the funding to go towards, which was our porch, because we had tore it down to the studs and we were working on a time limit, needing to get the exterior walls up, get it sealed so that when wintertime came, we didn't have to worry about the cold coming in the house, right? Because we had moved our exterior door to the porch and got an interior door. So we didn't want all that cold air coming in. And we also didn't want to ruin the new siding that we got for the porch, right? So all that stuff was priority and a necessity. But then after that got completed, we then had to turn around, buy Christmas gifts because we had not saved up everything that we needed for Christmas yet. Because since baby's coming right before Christmas, we wanted to have Christmas done before baby got here, right? We didn't want to have to do Christmas with all the families while I'm healing from a C-section and all that. So we had to buy Christmas presents a lot earlier than we normally do. And then we had to start saving up for the time off that my husband needed to take to be able to stay home with me. So that's something that we're doing next is we are saving up for him taking time off because they do not pay for him to take time off. And we had to save up for the stuff that we needed to buy to prep for baby coming. And so that was a whole lot of expense. And no, we haven't completely got it completed yet. I know that come the new year and when baby's here, things will finally settle down financially. And I can finally then start putting money back into our savings account and get everything padded back up to where it's supposed to be. But as of right now, that's not the way my budget looks. And we are okay with that. We have worked through it. We've decided how we're going to do it. And this is the plan that we came up with. Now, is it ideal? Would I like to do it as, the year goes on and save up like a sinking fund? Yes. But does that mean that I have to do that? No, because there are other ways to do it. As long as I have a plan, as long as I know how to get that money saved back up quickly to be able to cover my expenses. So as I continue to review and reflect on the things that have changed, I know that we have gotten rid of vehicles and we have gotten more vehicles, like just traded them out kind of thing. We are doing homeschooling that I need to start getting on top of as the new year is coming around, right? The gardening season. Now, how much of that is actually going to happen? I don't know because I'm not sure how healed I'm going to be and how motivated I'm going to be with the new baby. But that will all decide itself out when it comes to the time. But I still need to be able to know how I'm going to handle it financially should that come up, right? I also know that having clean products in my house is becoming a bigger and more desirable thing that I would love to have instead of using chemicals throughout my house, being worried about the kids putting it in their mouths, because I have a child who's still, she's 3 years old, almost 4, and still puts stuff in her mouth. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just don't want to have to worry about her putting a chemical in her mouth, right? And so that is something that is becoming higher priority. We also would love for my husband to possibly find a job that allows him to be home more, because he is a trucker. And if you know anything about truckers, the trucking life is long. And so he's not home very often. He does love to truck, but he also would love to be home with us as a family a little bit more. So we're trying to figure out how we could handle that. And there's so many things that have changed priorities. We're thinking about possibly putting our oldest into maybe an activity like gymnastics or some sport like that, because she's talking about it all the time. But again, that costs money. So how are we going to handle it? How are we going to do this stuff? And then getting caught back up on the yearly bills that we have been neglecting due to all of the life expenses that have, came up that needed to be handled. And that's just another thing on top of it, because now we have another baby and I'm trying to decide, do I do cloth diapers? Because I did that with my second. Or do I do disposable? Because disposable is so much easier and not as time consuming. But at the same time, do we have the finances for it to be able to cover and do all the other things that we want to do, right? We got to figure out what's important to us. And that's why I keep saying us, because it's not just me. It's what we want to do as a family. It's how we want to handle the life events that are happening and what we want to do to be able to actually achieve those goals. Because these goals that I'm talking about aren't the big flashy fancy ones that we're always talking about, right? Like paying off debt or saving up money for a vacation. Those things are awesome and fun and amazing once you're able to get there. But that's only a piece of the puzzle, right? You still have to live your life. You still have to enjoy your life. And if you're putting everything into those big bills or those big goals all of the time, then possibly, depending on what your goals are and your priorities are, you could be sacrificing your quality of life. And that's not something that I want you to do. That's not something that God wants you to do. So how important really are those big, audacious financial goals? Now, yes, if it's debt, I suggest throwing as much at it as you can to definitely take like a couple months, maybe a year, where you just throw money at it and find other ways to put joy in your life, because you don't need money to have a joyful life, right? Other countries where people have way less money than we do here in the United States are proof of that. So I don't want you to put every single penny you have into creating a joyful life, because money does not buy joy, right? Money can buy you a little bit of happiness that lasts for like maybe a month and then it's gone. True joy comes from your family, and it does not cost money to have a joyful life. But that does not mean that there aren't things that we want to do in life. And so being able to accommodate for that with our finances is something that you want to look into, as long as it's not putting you in a hard spot, right? If it's putting you into more debt, no, hold off, save up for it, and get it later, right? Be okay with that delayed gratification. Those are things that you have to consider all of the time when you go to budget, right? So step number 2 then is to set your goals. And this looks like looking at your priorities. What is important to you? What are the things that you want to put in your weekly and monthly life, right? But then also, what are your big, audacious financial goals that you are striving to achieve? Paying off debt. I suggest if that's not one of yours and you have debt, even just a little bit, should be a priority, right? That should be something that you are throwing a good chunk of money at because it is tying up your money. It is tying up a good chunk of your money, keeping you from being able to use it in other more necessary or fun or exciting ways, right? Get that money out of debt. Try your best not to put money into debt, and you will stop feeling like you are giving your money away. You'll stop feeling like you have no money because you will have margin that has just been tied up in a way that you could never reach it, right? Like if it's in your savings and you're saving up for something and life happens and you need to stop, like what we did, you can do that. But if it's tied up in debt, you can't do that. There's no way. There's no ability to be able to say, oh, well, sorry, bank, I can't pay you this month. No, there is consequences to that. You are, as God says in the Bible, a slave to your lender. So get yourself out of that debt, right? But set your goals. That is the next thing. Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit trail. Set your goals. What is important to you? What are your priorities? After reflecting and reviewing on the past year, what did you find needed to change? What did you find was not working for you? Were some of your category numbers not working for you, right? Was some money that you were putting away towards something just not important to you anymore because something else has happened? Then shift that money. But set your goals and figure out what is important to you this year. And definitely pray to God about it the whole time. Say, God, please guide me, lead me, show me what it is that you want me to do with this money so that I can, have a joyful life, but also honor you and my family in the process. Step number 4 then is to rework your base budget. Now, if you don't know what a base budget is, definitely go listen to an episode. I will link it in the show notes because I don't remember what number it is, but go listen to my base budget episode that walks you through setting up your base budget. But rework your base budget so that you can reflect your new year, your new season, and your God-led goals into it, right? You can set up a budget that is actually going to bring you joy, but not just that, it's going to reflect who you and your family are, right? Everybody's budget is different, just like everybody's priorities and values and things that they want to do for their family are different. They are not the same. Even if you're in a close-knit group of people and there are a lot of things that you do together that are the same, that does not mean that you're going to spend your money the same. That does not mean that every single value and priority you have are the same. So don't try to copy and paste somebody else's budget. Rework your budget to reflect what you are wanting to do this year and what God has led you towards, right? Because again, we have opened our eyes to God at the beginning of this, let's call it a meeting, right? The beginning of this goal setting session or budget session. And we are allowing Him to guide our thoughts, allowing Him to change direction and our priorities so that we know that we are creating a budget that is going to be life-giving instead of life-taking, right? So get that budget reworked based off of your new goals and what you have figured out from the past year. Step number 5 then is to make a plan as to how you're going to reach your goals. Now, this could be like flip-flopped. You could rework your base budget after making your plan, but sometimes this consists of spending plans, and you can't create a spending plan if you don't know your budgeted amount, right? But whatever order you decide to do it in, reworking or making a plan as to how you're going to reach these goals is important, because sometimes it's also reworking a habit, right? Because we can get into bad habits real easily And needing to break those old habits need to be strategized. Like you need to sit down with God and somebody else possibly to help you see what you can't see, right? When you are in the thick of it, it's hard to see what's actually happening. It's hard to be able to identify the culprit behind what is going on. And to break an old habit, you need to know what's going on so you can strategize and plan and figure out what it is that you're going to do to stop that from happening in the future. Now, you're not going to be perfect. This is a practice makes perfect thing, right? It doesn't matter how hard you try to be perfect, it's not going to happen. But you can still work your hardest. You can show up as the best version of yourself, not only for your finances, but for your family as well. And you do that by allowing yourself to fail, but then also pushing yourself and having somebody hold you accountable to keep you on track, right? So definitely sit down with your husband. Let him see where you're struggling. Let you help him see where he's struggling and come up with plans together, strategize together to figure out what steps you need to take to break your old habits. Or if maybe it's a habit that you're okay with and it's not really hurting anything financially, then just put it into the budget, right? Let it be something that is part of the budget, because sometimes we don't put things into the budget because they don't look good or they don't feel good. But in all reality, for our partner, for our husband or our wife, whoever it is, it can be something that they enjoy. Like my husband and liking to eat out all the time. That's something that I've just had to become okay with adding into the budget. Okay, so then step number 6 is to again pray. To pray to God, asking Him to guide your steps and change things up where He sees fit. So this is a prayer where you are submitting your plan. You've created your base budget, you've set your goals, you have made plans as to how you're going to reach and achieve these goals, whether it's with the splitting up of your money or it's the actions that you're going to take. You have a plan in place. And you're actually going to start taking action, right? So you are submitting this plan, this idea, this goal, this dream that you are wanting to achieve this year to Him so that He can continue to guide your steps, so that He can help motivate you, help push you, give you ideas, tell you, no, that's not the right direction, and change your steps when it's time, because He sees everything, right? He can tell us if we're going down the right path. He doesn't give us every single step along the way, because that is overwhelming, right? If you try to give every single step of a project to your children, they're going to get stressed and overwhelmed and not know what to do, right? It's the same way with us. God will give us each step when the time is right. And that is why it is so important to pray to Him before so that He can guide your planning process. But then till afterwards, when you're done, submit the plan to Him so that as you are going through and life happens, He can continue to guide your steps and help you continue to make strong, impactful financial decisions that are going to help instead of harm your family, and you don't have to stress over it, right? So definitely ask Him to help, to not be attached to the plan too, but rather to use it so that you know the next step to take unless He makes a change, right? You're going to follow this plan. You're going to trust that this is the plan that God has set has set for you, even though you created it. And then when it's time and He changes the direction, you got to be okay with it and you got to go with it, right? That can be the hard thing to do. And that is why asking Him to help you not be attached to it is going to help you so much down the road, right? All right, so let's go over what we talked about today, right? So step number 1 is you're going to pray inviting God into your decision making so that He can lead and direct your heart towards what He desires for your year versus what you would like to do. Because when we rely on our own strength, that is when selfish desires come into play. That is when we try to become controlling and we try to make things go the way we want them to be instead of allowing God to direct our paths. So definitely pray and invite Him in first. Second, reflect on your year, review what you did, what you didn't do, what you'd like to change. Write that all down, figure out what has happened in your life, and if life is needing to be reflected into your budget, because we go through seasons. Different seasons are going to change things. For instance, my budget is going to change because I'm adding another baby to the family, right? Next year is going to be totally different. And I'm not sure exactly what to expect or how to think because my brain is not ready for that yet. It's a little too advanced. So we're going to wait and probably rework this while I'm on maternity leave, healing with baby, and my husband's forced to be stuck at home with me, right? But definitely reflect on the past year. The step number 3 is then to set your goals, right? Figure out what needs to be done for this year and create goals that aren't just financial goals, not the big ones like saving up for vacation or paying off debt. Now, that is still extremely important, and that is one of the goals that I want you to set, but I also want you to set your weekly and monthly life goals, because driving places, if you want to go to small groups, costs money, especially if you live an hour away, both directions, like I do, right? And so that is something that you need to look into. Buying coffee, that's a life expense. And if that's something you're okay with and something you want to do, fine, do it. Maybe you need to set boundaries around how many coffees you can get a month kind of thing. But that is then the next thing, right? That is then moving into the next step, which is reworking your base budget and then creating a plan as to how you're going to reach your goals, right? So those two steps kind of just go together, and maybe I should have put them together, but I separated them. Just know that once you've reflected on your year and you're actually sitting down to rework your budget, that you also need to make a plan, and maybe you do it as you go. Like you say, okay, this is how much money we're going to put towards this, and then say, how are we going to reach that? Is that financially feasible? Should we actually do that? Is there something holding us back from being able to achieve that goal? Or should we not do it at all because life is just not allowing us to do that right now? There are so many questions that you can be asking yourself and just reflecting constantly and reviewing and focusing in on the things that are truly important to you, because if you're not actually taking steps towards those things and making plans to reach the things that you feel are truly important to you, then I hate to say this, but it's not important to you. If something else is coming up and taking away that money that should be going towards something that is a priority to you and your family, then you need to find a way to break that habit, because that money is then being taken away from the thing that is important to you versus the other thing. Now, maybe you're just not realizing that this other thing that you're buying is important to you and you just need to add it to the budget. Then that's something that needs to be done, and you'll find that out and you'll tweak it and change it as the year goes on, right? But when you start out, you definitely need to make sure that you are focused on your priorities and that you're not attached to your budget, because life is going to change. Your budget's going to ebb and flow just like your life ebbs and flows. And that's the way life goes, right? God is going to change your steps as well. So once you have reworked your budget and you've created a plan as to how you're going to achieve that, then submit the plan to God so that He can guide your steps and He can change things where they need to be changed, especially when life happens. It's so much easier when you're directed by God than when you're like, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do this? Should I not? You just say, God, guide me. I don't know what to do here. And He will definitely help you through it, right? Okay, so those are the 6 steps that I want you to take when you sit down to do a yearly budget session with you and your husband, and to definitely just really think. This is just a big reflection time to think about what you've done in the past and what you're going to do to change that so that your priorities are now reflected for the new year. Let the excitement flow. Let the energy flow. Just get all your hopes and dreams and goals out there, but don't get so overwhelmed by them, right? There can be a lot of hopes and dreams and excitement that comes with the new year, right? Because that's when New Year's resolutions come out and all that kind of thing. Now, I don't want you to set New Year's resolutions. I want you to set true goals that you're actually going to work towards and achieve, right? Not something that you're just going to throw away at the drop of a hat because you're not used to doing it and it's not a habit that's set in place. That's why it's so important to make a plan so that you are able to achieve the base budget that you have reworked, right? So I do want to say that this is something that I can totally help you with. Now, right now, I do not have any spots open for coaching because I am on maternity leave. Definitely snuggling and loving on this new baby. But when I come back, if you would like to grab a budget coaching session, you can still go to my Calendly link, which is mollybonnell@gmail.com. No, that is my email. You can email me too. But my Calendly link is www.calendly.com/mollybonnell. So that's where you can go and get scheduled for when I open coaching back up, right? I've got spots available, so you can go grab them and book them before somebody else does, right? So that you can have your spot being held before you forget, kind of thing, right? So you can definitely go and do that. If you'd just like to reach out and email me, definitely do that. I'll be checking my emails every so often, not as often as I usually do, but I will check them and I will get back to you when the time is right, because you never know when baby is gonna make me sleep, and healing from a C-section, it's a lot of work, right? But I will get back to you. Just give me some grace, right? But other than that, I pray that you have a great week. I pray that this episode has inspired you and that you sit down with your husband and you come up with a great and awesome plan. And if you're not sure or positive about it, definitely book a call with me and we can go over your plan and see why you don't feel like it fits you, right? We can work through it. We can look at things and figure out a plan that's actually going to reflect you and your family and you're going to enjoy, right? So definitely reach out to me at mollybonnell@gmail.com, or if you just want to book that call right away so you don't have to worry about forgetting to do it, you can go to calendly.com/mollybonnell and get that call booked. Hey mama, I pray that today's episode has inspired you and grew you. If so, will you please share it with that friend who is praying for a budget breakthrough, and leave a rating and review so that you can help get the podcast out to other mamas struggling with their budget. Also, get some support for yourself by joining my free Facebook group and becoming an insider, where you get weekly support emails and are the first to find out when something new is on its way. You can find the links in the show notes, and I will see you right back here next Tuesday.